Well, it makes all sorts to make a galaxy. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Terror of the Zygons by Robert Stewart Banks and directed by Douglas Camfield. This is a 4-part adventure that sets off season 13 of classic Doctor Who, Tom Baker's second season. However, the story was originally made to be the last story of the 12th season of the classic series, Tom Baker's first. And the reason why they pushed it into the next season is because this whole thing about they wanted to push Doctor Who later on in the year. Previously, it was produced so that it'd start in January, but now because of this shift, the season changed, allowing for Doctor Who to be aired much later. And this story also sets out a great example of Philip Hinchcliffe's era on the show. He loves the gothic horror, and this story sets out to be one of the, if not the best, Doctor Who story of the Fourth Doctor era. Many people love this story, and the Zygons themselves would become a fan favourite, with them being petitioned multiple times to have a recurring villainous role, which didn't actually come into fruition until the Day of the Doctor in 2013. So this is the story that they come from, and this is also their only classic Who appearance, which I find kind of strange. But yeah, so this story has a lot going for it, and right off the bat, I'm going to have to state that I watched, on the DVD, there's a director's cut of episode 1, which adds in a 1.5-minute scene of the Doctor, Sarah and Harry Sullivan, coming out the TARDIS and finding the Brigadier. So I personally prefer watching this slight director's cut of episode 1, and that's what I'm going to be discussing about. So the Doctor gets summoned to Scotland from the previous story. The Doctor alerts Sarah and Harry that the Brigadier has called to them, as the Doctor gave him a device to call the Doctor anytime in space and time. And so they go into Scotland and they investigate these attacks on some oil rigs in the night, just so randomly one of the oil rigs just get attacked and people get murdered. And so the Brigadier gets the Doctor involved. And whilst this is happening, the Doctor gets introduced to the Duke of Falkland, I believe his name was. I'm just going to call him the Duke. Who is this very strange, old-fashioned person who believes that basically people should be entitled by their family and their heritage and stuff. And he also acts a bit odd and a bit serious about everything, but also taking things as lightly as well, as he doesn't really believe the Doctor and Sarah later on in the episode. He doesn't really believe about aliens and stuff like that. And this story has a fantastic atmosphere. I love the eerie moor of where they are. It's near Loch Ness. I can't remember where it actually is set. Tulloch. It's set on Tulloch Moor, in a small village and a field right next to Loch Ness. And the Doctor soon discovers that there is a giant monster attacking these oil rigs. And whilst this is going up, Harry is investigating on the moor because some debris of the oil rigs are coming out to the shore, and he finds a survivor. However, when he goes and finds him, the guy gets shot, and Harry gets shot with a skim across his skull, putting him in some sort of coma. And the story does a fantastic job at battling the light elements with the much serious moments. How, like, Sarah in episode 1 starts off not really taking it all too seriously with the Brigadier in a kilt and laughing about it and giggling on about how the landlord of the pub that the unit is based in Scotland, he starts playing the pipes, and also he claims he has a sixth sense as he's a seventh son of a seventh son. And she's a bit light on it, and she starts laughing about it, which leads on to one of my favourite scenes in which he picks up the phone, does a Scottish accent. Hello there, how can I help you? And then it goes silent. She turns to the doctor. Harry's been shot. And the doctor then looks up. Another thing as well I really like about this story is its banter between our characters. This would be the last time the Brigadier is in a story for a long while. And I personally consider it the end of the unit era. Even though in later stories they would appear with not that big of an emphasis on them, and there's no Brigadier. So I personally consider this the end, the final story in the unit saga. That's a shame, but however, there are some really great moments in which the Doctor and the Brigadier have a bit like a banter, but they still get on very well, and the same with just everyone else. Like I mentioned with the scene with the kilt, and it's just overall a great positive experience until Harry gets shot, and then the story starts to pick up seriously as Harry gets taken to a hospital ward, and the nurse there is acted really strange. She's very straight-faced and serious. The doctor tells Sarah to basically look after Harry as the Doctor and the Brigadier go, investigate then. And and Sarah Jane calls up the Doctor, and she turns around, and you see a Zygon just like coming up to her screaming. And that's our cliffhanger for part 1. Wow, this one is bloody terrifying. One of my earliest memories of actually watching classic Doctor Who on videos with my uncle is seeing this cliffhanger and literally jumping out of my seat. It was just really, it's a really intense, like, it starts off with all like they're talking just fine and stuff. Sarah turns around and suddenly you just got a noise. You've got this orange octopus man running at you at the screen, Sarah screaming her heart out, and yeah, just a really great cliffhanger. So let's talk about the Zygons in here. They are magnificently designed, and I especially love it when we get set inside their spaceship. Never have I seen a sci-fi ship so unique. Everything is organic. It all feels like they're part of like Zygon's skin and stuff. They've even, the way they control stuff is by like touching these like what do you call them, like octopus suckers, which Zygons have it on their faces as well. And the lighting in these sets are probably some of the most gorgeous Doctor Who sets of the classic era. I love the orange and the green. It just looks really intense and terrifying. It's just something really about it really works, and their creature, I can't remember what it's called, I'm just going to call it the Loch Ness Monster, is a fantastically designed creature, and this story has a very cinematic quality, as not only do we see the creature, but they use multiple different effects to get the creature across, whether it be by puppetry or green screen. My personal favourite, this is probably one of the few times in Doctor Who history where they use stop motion effects. Yes, you heard that right. Doctor Who with stop motion effects. The scenes which have the stop motion really are really short. Mainly it's miniatures or green screen. But the effect really does emphasize how big the creature is, and it kind of feels like a Godzilla or a King Kong sort of creature. So really high props to this creature, but it's not about the creatures, it's about the characters and the slow, foreboding atmosphere, as when the Doctor and Brigadier go back to the hospital because, you know, the Doctor heard Sarah on the phone, they find that both Harry and Sarah have gone missing. And the nurse kind of tricks the Doctor into going into it like an egg duct, where he finds Sarah Jane, and the Zygon takes the oxygen all out. And whilst this is going on, we see Harry, now awake, being introduced to the Zygons in their beautifully gorgeous sets and all that. And we get to learn that they are actually shapeshifters, and they plan to use the Harry's body to try and get a small device that's that the Doctor took earlier on in the story. I can't remember when they get the device. Oops. But anyway, so the Zygon Harry goes to I need to go back up a bit. So Benton finds the Doctor and Sarah in a non-area, but they're somehow still alive because the Doctor hypnotizes Sarah, which is a really weird ability that we never see the Time Lords do. Actually, it's not even a Time Lord ability, it's the Doctor learning it from a monk, he says. So, a nice little reference to the Abominable Snowman, in which the Doctor has said multiple times that he's been to Tibet. So, that's pretty cool. So, the Doctor and Sarah are now free, and Sarah goes to the pub, where she meets Harry, not really being Harry, and he acts really strange, and he gets the device and starts running off. And Sarah and a few unit crew go chasing after him, though they soon split up and Sarah is left on her own in this small barnyard. And just the cinematography in these scenes are very, very well handled. When we get the Zygon Harry just staring at Sarah, hiding, you can only see like a bit of his face, as the rest of it's in a shadow, and he's hiding behind some hay. And it makes you really feel like at any moment he could just swing out at Sarah and kill her. And when she notices where he is, he gets a pitchfork and starts chasing Sarah with it. However, Sarah moves out of the way and he falls to his death, and Sarah looks out and sees a Zygon body. So yeah, very great, very intense. So really the story is really figuring about like what's going on, who's going on and stuff. Yeah, I don't know what I can say that other people have not mentioned about Terror of the Zygons. It's just a fantastically well written piece of media. And the story is mainly set, or the first 3 episodes are mainly set in Tulloch, on Tulloch Moor. However, the cliffhanger for part 3 is that the Zygons ship actually leaves and starts heading to London, where one of them, disguised as the Duke, which was revealed to be a Zygon, goes to a meeting so he can plant a device which will let their Loch Ness monster attack the House of Parliament in London, and so they can conquer the world. I don't know how you can conquer the world by just taking down Parliament, but there you go. And we get a really great intense action scene in a basement where the Doctor and Sarah and the Brigadier are all looking for the final Zygon. Harry's saved at this point. I forgot to mention. So yeah, great little action scene, very intense. We got a lot of dark. The story knows when to be bright and light, and it knows when to be dark and terrifying, especially when it's revolved around the villain. And soon they kill the Zygon, and the Doctor gets the device and starts running, just flinging himself forward onto the balcony and throws the device away, letting the Loch Ness monster survive. And he starts heading back to Loch Ness. So in Doctor Who mythology, the Loch Ness monster is not only real, but he also is a Zygon creature. I forgot to mention about the Zygons. It is stated in this story that their home planet was mysteriously destroyed. This would later be sort of retconned in Day of the Doctor, where it is revealed that their home planet is destroyed because of the Time War, during the early days of the Time War, to be precise. This, surprisingly, works out phenomenally well, because as Russell T Davies has stated in many interviews, genesis of the Daleks was basically the first shot fired of the Time War. That marks the first instant of the Time War. That is when the start of the Time War. So that was only like a few stories back from this, and so we can consider that during Time Lord days, or Time Vortex days, whatever, we're still in the first day of the Time War, theoretically. So that's really that's a really cool fact to notice. So the Doctor, Harry and Sarah and the Brigadier and all that, all after just saving the day, head back to the TARDIS, and Harry decides to stay. Now, I don't know why, but I just really like the way Harry just decides that he doesn't want to travel anymore. It's so casual. It just sums up Harry's character to a T. It's a shame that Ian Martin kind of left. The reason is because his character was designed to be the young action man to an elderly Doctor if they decided to cast an older Doctor after John Pertwee. However, when Tom Baker was cast, his character kind of became redundant. So I'm not quite sure if he left feeling like he was made just a useless part in the story, or if Philip Hinchcliffe got rid of him. But either way, Harry Sullivan left, and he left in just the way that you would imagine Harry Sullivan leaving. The Doctor and Sarah start heading off to the TARDIS, and Harry's like, actually, you know what, I'm just going to stay on Earth. Okay. And And the Doctor kind of sees Sarah, looks at Sarah as if to be like, are you coming? And Sarah's like, okay, but only if we do go back to London as you promised. Promised. And then they leave off into the TARDIS. So, that is Terror of the Zygons. Overall, it's a fantastically written story. It is considered one of the best Fourth Doctor's adventures, and it's hard to disagree. It has everything you like from a classic Doctor Who story. It has the horror, it has the sci-fi, it has the action, the suspense, the mystery, and it just you just watch it feeling like it's a classic. So there you go, that's Terror of the Zygons. So join me next time when we have some anti-matter monsters and evil Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-like scientist in the planet of evil. See you then on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da.